You're listening to Strange by Nature, your guide to the strange, weird, unbelievable, and improbable wonders of the natural world.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for being here today. I'm Kirk Mona, and joining me are Rachel Gimza and Victoria Thompson. We're all naturalists who together have scoured the world for weird and wonderful wonders, just to please your mammalian brain's desire for novelty. Isn't that nice? Let's do this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Yay.
It is, we're going to have a much happier episode.
I'm so excited for my topic.
Week.
Oh, good.
A little bit of a downer, but I will tell you, it is summertime. We are having a blast. We've had a very thunderstorm-filled summer here so far this year. Mm-hmm. And so I think maybe thunderstorms have been on my mind. And the physics behind a thunderstorm are quite interesting. But there's also a strange, rare phenomenon that can occur along with a storm that almost seems like science fiction, mass delusion, or tall tales. But the evidence seems to point to it being true. Okay. And that is the very strange occurrence of heat bursts.
Oh.
Have either of you heard about those?
No. What's that?
That's what we're talking about.
Not do things with severe weather, so not to spike any anxiety I have regarding severe weather. So the fact that we've had so many thunderstorms and I live on the second floor of my house, not great.
Yeah. Oh, I've been loving it. Well,
you live in the basement.
I live in the whole house. My bedroom isn't. I have a basement bedroom, which is fabulous. But anyways, before we get into the mechanics of how this particular thing occurs, let's visit the site and hear the story of what may have been the most extreme heat burst ever recorded in the United States. We need to head to Copperell, Texas.
We have to.
It is there that locals still talk about what they called Satan's Storm.
Oh.
Yeah, this sounds terrible. I'm out.
In 1960. Yeah, now, it is important to note this storm took place in 1960, which is before I was born, but isn't like ancient prehistory or something.
There's lots of people alive today who were around in 1960.
Exactly. My parents, who are still alive, were in high school at the time. We're just 9 years away from landing on the moon. Mm-hmm. This wasn't horse and buggy days, and yet, in a lot of ways, we still didn't have a lot of modern meteorology. And the large network of automated sensors that give us information today, that didn't really exist. There were a few official thermometers per state, maybe like at the Capitol, maybe at an airport, and they were just the old-fashioned, thermometers. It was nothing digital. And the local temperature in small towns was probably just something you read off of an advertising sign with a thermometer attached to it down at the local grocery store. Yep. Maybe a few people had a thermometer on their barn or something, but there weren't like official temperatures in a lot of places. Well, shortly after midnight on June 15th, 1960, something truly extraordinary happened in Copperell, Texas. Most everyone was in bed. Most people didn't have air conditioning back then, so they were sleeping with the windows open most likely. It had been a pretty pleasant day, actually, with temperatures in the 70s, which was downright cool for Texas.
Yeah, pretty good for June in Texas.
That sounds nice.
Or maybe this was like 70 is probably the temperature like that it was like as night fell. Okay. Once it had cooled off some, but still really nice, beautiful evening.
That's okay.
So people had their windows open and we're looking forward to a good night's sleep. Well, suddenly, very suddenly, things changed. People were simultaneously awoken by two different things. And first up, we're going to talk about the extreme wind. The wind was said to go from essentially nothing to suddenly blowing at 75 miles per hour and possibly higher.
Holy.
And this wind seemed to come out of nowhere. All of a sudden, just boom, 75-mile-an-hour winds. And a reporter who visited the town the next day shot footage, which you can still watch. There are trees knocked down, roofs ripped off buildings, windows blown out of stores. And again, the windows were blown out from the inside, which seems to indicate a very rapid and extreme pressure change that occurred in this small town.
Wow, especially
the
if
reporter
windows
took
were
eyewitness
open
accounts.
too. Oof.
Yeah, well, this was at a store, so those windows probably didn't even open. Like
a
didn't
picture
open. The
window
building's probably
kind of
sealed up
thing.
pretty tight. Yeah, like a big plate glass picture window. The reporter took eyewitness accounts that included at least one farmer talking about his ears popping, which also would support a large pressure change that was happening.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Now, look, powerful storms and winds are interesting, but not necessarily strange. And from like a wind perspective, this one doesn't seem all that noteworthy. Certainly, we have tornadoes here where we live, and at least damage-wise, this seemed consistent with a tornado with like a pretty small one, like an F0 or an F1.
Yeah.
Still damaging, but not as big as they can get.
Or some of those straight line winds that we get sometimes.
Exactly, yeah. And what's really noteworthy is that it wasn't only the wind that descended on Copperell that night, but also the heat. And remember I said how it hadn't been like a particularly hot, evening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, suddenly and immediately the temperature spiked, like someone just flipping a switch. Those who were interviewed afterwards said it felt like you were sticking your face into an open oven.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no.
Now,
That's
I know
so
that
weird.
humans
Not
love to
something you
exaggerate
expect to
about the
happen
weather,
at night.
right?
You don't expect the
Yeah.
temperature
Yeah.
to go up.
Right. And I know humans love to exaggerate about the weather. I was in Hawaii once during a cold snap, and it got down to 65 degrees, but it still felt warm to me coming from Minnesota winter. I was down at the beach snorkeling in the ocean and having a great time. And locals that I saw had sweaters on. I actually saw a meteorologist on the news who said, and this is a quote, "I'm down here on Waikiki Beach and it's literally freezing out here."
Nowadays.
I think he meant it was figuratively freezing since it was 65 degrees out and you could see liquid water in the form of a giant ocean behind him. But to the locals who are used to it being like 80 degrees every day, it probably did feel incredibly cold. But if we flash back to Texas and remember that these are rural Texans living in a subtropical climate, many without air conditioning, in a place where it routinely gets above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, these people know what a hot day feels like.
Oh, yeah.
They aren't going to complain and make a big deal out of it. Suddenly getting to be 100 degrees at night. Like, oh, it's strange. It got really hot last night. Okay. It probably no hotter than a lot of other nights. So the question really becomes, how hot did it get?
Yeah.
And frustratingly, the answer is we don't really know. What we do know is that it was so hot that people had trouble breathing,
Ooh.
which would seem to indicate that it was
That's real
very,
hot.
very hot. We have stories of families who evacuated their homes and slept in underground storm shelters where it was cooler because they just could not stay in their homes any longer. And most bizarrely, entire fields of cotton went from green to brown. They were essentially burned.
Oh, wow.
They were dead and dry, and they could be the leaves could be crumbled in the hand like crunchy, dried fall leaves.
Whoa.
And the fields basically looked like they had been baked in an oven.
Wow.
That's
Now-
insane.
You could just write this off as local legend if it wasn't for the fact that this reporter came to town with his, camera and interviewed farmers and actually recorded film of the crops crumbling to dust in people's hands. Like, we have all this footage, so we know this actually happened. We also know there was a thermometer on the side of Charlie Riddle's bait shop in town, and townsfolk all came by to see what had happened. And basically, it had topped out and burst.
Oh.
So
What?
the thermometer
Wow.
actually broke. It got so hot. So the implication being that when the liquid inside reached the top of the thermometer, it continued to expand until it just shattered the glass on the thermometer.
That's
nuts.
too hot.
Yeah,
Where did that
so-
amount of heat come from? That's bizarre.
exactly. And keep in mind, this only happened in this one small, tiny little town.
Yeah.
Nowhere else reported this. So we have extreme heat, extreme wind. All in all, like both the heat and the wind is said to have lasted for 4 hours,
Oh.
which sounds horrible. I think it probably did slightly taper off over time. It wasn't like on and then boom, off 4 hours later, but after 4 hours, the heat and the wind had dissipated. Now, an expert who studied the crop damage and gathered reports at the time estimated that the temperature may have reached 140 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's too hot.
Which, for the rest of the world, that is 60 degrees Celsius.
That's
and to
too
be clear,
hot.
that is a bonkers, absolutely bonkers number. The currently accepted high temperature for air on Earth was recorded in Death Valley, California on July 10th, 1913. We've talked about it on the show. And that was 134 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
So
And
for
the fact
there
that
to
it
just be
went
this
from
all of a sudden,
70 to 140?
it makes no sense. It makes
no sense.
no sense.
Ugh.
If that was the actual temperature, it would break the world record for the hottest recorded temperature ever on Earth. And it happened under very strange circumstances. So the real bummer of this story is that we don't know the actual temperature. We do know it was hot enough to literally burn crops, cause panic, cause breathing problems, and make people who are used to the Texas heat literally think it might be the end of the world, and call it Satan's storm. They thought they were suddenly inside an oven, is how they described it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how hot it really got, but it was certainly very hot. We do now know, all these years later, that heat bursts are very real. They can occur in places where thunderstorms are present, and there are reports from not only the U.S., but also Canada, Spain, France, Australia, Portugal, and South Africa. Probably other places that happens as well, but those are the places we now have reports from. So here's what's going on. When a thunderstorm builds up, it can get extremely tall. And those of us who live in places with thunderstorms, know we routinely see these huge towering thunderclouds. They can get so tall, they actually intersect with the jet stream in the atmosphere, which then flattens out their tops into like an anvil shape.
Yeah.
These are typically 40 to 60,000 feet tall. Some of the extreme storms can actually punch through this layer and reach into the stratosphere, topping out at 70,000 feet. And now if those numbers don't mean a lot to you, just consider that the cruising altitude of a commercial jet is right around 30,000 feet. So some of these super, super tall ones can be twice the height of the cruising height of a commercial jet, which is bonkers.
That's insane.
So these large cells can be very destructive, but what's really interesting is how they collapse and disappear. These sort of storm cells tend to get started in the afternoon, and once the day, kind of heats up, the energy in the heated atmosphere allows these storms to build to these incredible heights. But once the sun goes down, the storms lose their power source and they start to die. And when the storm collapses, they can create powerful downbursts. And this is essentially, the opposite of the updraft that pushed all that moisture up to those great heights. And when that updraft can no longer support all of the moisture in that huge cloud, it has weight to it, and it can literally start to collapse down with considerable force and cause very damaging winds. And this is actually related to the heat burst, but the heat burst is like an extra special version of this. So, this is what's happening when a thunderstorm collapses, and it's thought that a thunderstorm basically collapsed over Copperell, Texas in the middle of the night. And when you get a heat burst, here's what we think is going on. So you have this mass of air in the storm cloud that is very high up, and it's has a ton of moisture in it that it gathered from the storm. But it loses that moisture to the very dry air that's very high up. And so that air mass suddenly doesn't have any water in it anymore. And losing moisture to the air around it actually makes this mass of air heavier. And I know that sounds weird, but we talked about this on the show before. Dry air is heavier than moist air, even though it seems like it should be the other way around.
Right.
So now you have this very, very large volume of very dry air, very high up in the atmosphere. And because the updraft of the storm has faded away, there's nothing to keep it up there. And when it falls down, it actually creates this downburst like we just talked about. But that should be cold air, not warm air, right? But what's really wild, though, is if in some very specific situations, the air falls so rapidly that it heats up due to compression.
Whoa.
And it can heat up
Okay.
a lot. Estimates are that the air can heat up 10 degrees Celsius for every 1,000 meters it falls, or 5.4
Whoa.
Fahrenheit for every 1,000 feet. So if we're talking about a pretty modest large thunderstorm topping out at 30,000 feet, we can multiply 30 by 5.4 and see that the air falling from that height could heat up by as much as 162 degrees as it falls.
Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit, yes. And the general temperature at the top of a thunderstorm is about negative 40, which is the same for Celsius and Fahrenheit. But if you subtract that, from that 162, you get 122 degrees Fahrenheit. So even from a 30,000 foot thunderstorm, theoretically, you could have 122 degree air rapidly impacting the ground. That's by the 50 centigrade. So imagine you're laying in bed, it's like 70 degrees out, the windows are open because you don't have AC, and suddenly out of nowhere, 122 degree Fahrenheit, 75 mile an hour wind blasts you for 4 hours.
Oh,
That
I would
be
think I'm in an
shocking.
oven. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
and that
does this-
seems to be what happened.
This tends to happen in drier climates, if I'm understanding correctly.
It can happen lots of places. I think it's it's where there's thunderstorms. So it's actually a place where there's a lot of moisture. I think where it's losing its moisture is very high up, and it's pretty dry up there all the time,
Okay.
no matter the climate. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a dry climate. It's happened in like Oklahoma and like all kinds of other places too. I forget
Yeah,
how
you
far
mentioned
north,
in,
but I
like,
mean,
Australia, Australia, South Africa, Portugal.
yeah,
the
which again, it can be kind of dry places too, but all the factors seem to line up. And one of the interesting things is people in Copperhill, Texas also said the air was very dry, like when it hit them too, which is kind of lines up with this whole idea of a heat burst as well. We're never going to know the exact extreme temperature they reached that night. There have been other unofficial temperatures recorded during heat bursts, including 123 Fahrenheit. So it could have gotten at least that hot, if not hotter. And now that we do have modern instruments, we're only just starting to record heat bursts officially because it can be extremely localized, like directly under a collapsing thunderstorm. And so if it's not that big of a storm geographically, what are the odds there's going to be a thermometer like directly under it? It's still kind of low. The hottest official heat burst recorded so far reached 114 in Phoenix, Arizona back on July 28th, 1995. But to be fair, the heat burst was, before the heat burst, it was already 106. So that was really only a change of 8 degrees.
Yeah.
The largest recorded temperature swing so far was in Barcelona, Spain on 2 dates, one in 93 and one in 1994, where the temperature suddenly rose by 23 degrees Fahrenheit in a matter of minutes. And now that we know and understand this phenomenon, these records are just ripe to be broken. So stay tuned. Maybe one of these days we'll have another Copperhill event. And this time we'll have the temperature gauges to actually prove how hot it gets. So that's the strange thing I have for this week, heat bursts. I was turned on to this topic by a great video from Sweegle Studios on YouTube. You should check it out. He was able to actually dig up the incredible interviews and footage of the aftermath from the news archives in Copperhill, Texas. So it's very cool to hear the firsthand accounts of what happened and what it was like and see the footage. I also gathered some additional data from Wikipedia, but do check out his video. It's about 25 minutes long, and it's called "The Night Texas Hit 104 Degrees Fahrenheit."
Wow.
Thanks, Kirk.
That was fascinating. Thank
Sure
you.
thing.
Wild.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with Rachel.
Woo. All right, welcome back to the show, everyone. Now, I try really hard to space out my ocean topics on the show, so I'm not just covering the ocean all the time for
Right.
various reasons, partially because I do love the ocean and everyone knows this. And I have sort of done that with this particular episode, but we haven't talked about sharks in too long, and they are one of my favorite things, and it just happens that this episode airs during Shark Week, and I was just
there it is.
This is the best. I did plan this this particular this topic before I found out that it was Shark Week. I literally was like writing my notes and was like, wait, when does this come out? When is Shark Week? And I looked and it happened to be when this episode airs. And I'm like, yes, I have an excuse. So let's talk about one of the largest sharks in the world.
Nice.
Yes.
Let's do it. Which one?
Now, I know everyone is all, it's the whale shark. You're talking about the whale shark. Ha!
Yeah. We haven't
That's
talked
what
about
mine
the
is.
whale shark yet on the show?
We have not talked about the whale shark. So I'm putting that out there again.
Okay.
But we are today, instead, not talking about the whale shark. We are talking about the second largest shark out there, the basking shark.
Okay. All right.
Okay. But what did you do?
Kirk seems skeptical.
Kirk is all like skeptical out here. Like,
No, I'm not. No, I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, let's do it. You are misreading me. My enthusiasm.
Okay. So, the basking shark is the Ceterinus maximus. It is the second largest living shark and fish. Thank you. I did practice. I was really proud of that one.
I was commenting the
and
name, not your pronunciation, but good job for that too.
Thank you. So honestly, like, you're right, Kirk. We need to talk about that for a second because it's called Maximus, and that's a great name for a very large shark.
It is.
That is great.
So it is the second largest living shark and fish, as all sharks are fish, but not all fish are sharks. Now, basking sharks are the second largest. They can get up to 7.9 meters long or 26 feet long. I did the math. That's 4.8.
a big fish.
That's a big fish. That is 4.8 Rachels stacked on top of each other. Okay? But there have been records of some individuals getting larger than that, where they've gotten up to 10 meters or 33 feet long, which is a whopping 6.1 Rachels long.
Oh.
Which, that's a big fish.
The big fish, yep.
They are. So they are huge. They are a gray-brown and a mottled pattern all the way down. And underneath as well. They don't have any contrasting coloration as many sharks do. They're all about the same color all the way around, kind of mottled looking. However, their most distinguishing feature is their mouth. All right. Mm-hmm. Their inner mouth is white, and is pretty big on its own. We'll get to it in a second. Basking sharks are found all over the world in temperate oceans, slowly moving through. Their fastest swimming speed is a whopping 2.5 miles per hour. So we could outswim
that is
a basking
slow down.
Ooh. But it makes sense
What a speed demon.
why they are going that slowly in the water. They're one of 3 sharks who filter feed. So that mouth that they are well known for, they're called, I'll get to why they're called basking sharks. They're also known as elephant sharks and such too. They have quite a few names that we can call them. But basking sharks, they have a large mouth that has gill rakers, so that when they open their mouth, in general, it's about 1 meter across, so about 3 feet across. Not up and down. That's pretty big. Their throat is much smaller, but that's fine. They have olive interior of their mouth, which is white. They have these gill rakers, which is an arch on the inner part of their mouth that looks a lot like, that is structured kind of by their gills, that actually helps them filter in food while in suspended water. So they're slowly moving through the water, and they have their mouth open, bringing in as much food as they possibly can. And those rakers are able to bring in the zooplankton and such that allows them to, eat. Now,
Right.
they are still sharks, so they do actually have shark teeth on top of the gill rakers.
Okay.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Huh.
Yeah. They're tiny and they're conical, so they're not very, useful, especially since they're filter feeders, but they have over 100 teeth per row, which amounts to about 1,500 tiny teeth.
Huh.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of teeth.
That is
in
a lot.
6 rows on the top of their jaw, and then they have 9 rows on the bottom of their jaw.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's, a lot of rows of teeth there.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Superlative animal.
It's a time. So often they are found kind of near the top of the water column. They can go pretty far down. They can go a couple thousand feet down if they need to. But they're often near the top because a lot of the food that they're eating are photosynthetic as well. So they're going to be found near the top of the water column, which is where they get the name basking sharks, because they look like they're just kind of sitting in the sun, basking in it.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. But when they're moving and grooving through the water, they often are found with their mouths wide open. And with their mouths wide open at an average swim speed of just under 2 miles an hour, okay, they can move and filter 250 tons of water in an hour.
Oh, okay.
That's a lot.
That is more than a ton of water. I was about to be like, that's a ton of water. It's way more.
More than a ton of water, yeah.
Filtering large amounts of water as they are moving through that water column. Trying to get as much as absolutely possible. And it's really fascinating to find out. And some resources that I was looking at, like the Florida Museum in the University of Florida, they actually quote that the rakers can strain up to 2,000 tons of water per hour. But it depends on your source. So if anything, it's a lot of water in an hour.
Safe to say a lot. Yes.
Yeah. So they are but that makes sense because they need high densities and high amounts of zooplankton and small fish and whatever they can catch to be able to power their large bodies. It is really fascinating, and we've talked about it on the show before, that some of the largest animals on the planet eat some of the smallest animals on the planet. When we talked about the blue whale and such,
they weird one.
Some of the littlest creatures that we have. But I think that also goes to show how many nutrients can be packed within such a small package, The other thing is that they're pretty slow moving. So that means that they're not expending as much energy. Mm-hmm. Basking sharks, they can live. Yeah. Basking sharks can live up to around 50 years, scientists think. And they reach maturity to reproduce in a couple of stages. Females actually take longer to become reproductive than males do. Females become sexually mature between 12 and 16 years versus the males are like a couple years earlier than that. It's kind of bizarre. They're like, what is going on? There's one other thing I want to talk about when it comes to their reproduction is that we don't know a ton about them. The thing that most people think that is that they are ovoviviparous,
Uh-huh.
Okay.
That's where the eggs hatch inside the mother, and then
Yes.
she gives birth to live young.
Yes. And that the gestation period is at least 3 years.
Oh.
Whoa. 3 years?
That's a really long time to be pregnant.
Oh,
It sounds
Whoa.
awful, honestly.
that is wild.
Yeah, but there are
3
not a ton
years.
of basking sharks out there, and because there's not like a ton of basking sharks out there, we haven't like really witnessed all that much for reproduction. And believe it or not, these guys are hard to keep in any sort of aquarium kind of setting.
Go figure.
Yeah, because
So-
the food needs would be crazy.
Astronomical. Yeah. So we're still learning wherever we can, and they can have up to like 6 pups at a time. The other really interesting thing that I wanted to talk about when it comes to basking sharks on this Shark Week of all Shark Weeks, they are one of the very few species of sharks that can breach, just like great white sharks. They have been seen
Really?
breaching and leaping out of the water. Yes.
I wonder what purpose that serves.
doesn't make any sense. Because
They
they move
seem to
so
have
slow.
some sort of
And then what
it
are they
takes
going
a
after?
lot of energy to burst out of the water
Yeah.
like that. Some thought is that it could be part of a courtship ritual.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
it seems like they have some more complicated courtship rituals, I guess.
Wow.
But yeah, it's kind of insane.
This is a bunch
it's
of things I
weird.
did not expect about this shark.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very, very bizarre.
And they are obviously the largest type of shark to be able to breach. Most sharks can't do it, and the whale shark certainly cannot do so. It's weird. They are bizarre creatures, and we don't know a ton about them. We're still learning more and more about them. There's only about 10,000 individuals, we think, left on the planet. But when we do find them, they're always really, really cool to be able to see. I love sharks and I love basking sharks. In particular, I also love whale sharks, but we'll get into them another day. So that is what I have for you all this week. My sources were, of course, Wikipedia had some great pieces of information. Fact Animal also had a really good listicle about some of their fun facts. But the Florida Museum, which I already talked about with the University of Florida, had some amazing things. Sharks.org, which is Sharks Research Institute, and AmericanOceans.org, and of course the Natural History Museum over in, I think, in Australia, because we have to talk about Australia at some point, obviously. And so that is
Cool,
what I
thank
got
you.
for you this week. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, it'll be Victoria.
All right, we're back. Folk tales about little people are pretty widespread across many cultures from all around the world. So like elves, pixies, brownies, sprites, gnomes, goblins, imps, all these.
I'm intrigued.
Yes, small imaginary creatures, sometimes helpful, sometimes benign, sometimes mischievous. Yeah. It's easy to chalk them up as just fairy tales told to children, but it turns out that they may have some sort of basis in reality, or
Color
at least
me more
Okay.
intrigued.
at least in psychology,
Interesting.
or perhaps toxicology.
Ooh.
It turns out that there is a well-documented, although rare, type of hallucination where the person who's hallucinating will see just the normal world around them. Nothing's changed. It's all exactly as it is in reality, except that there are little people, fantasy creatures, or small animals, teeny tiny animals, just crawling around. These people can be seen swarming around the floor, climbing up table legs, squeezing under doorways, and
oh my gosh, that's wild.
They're interacting with the world in realistic ways, so they obey the law of gravity and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're amusing or cute. Other times people find them threatening or creepy.
Right.
And sometimes these are purely visual hallucinations, but they also commonly include accompanying sounds, touch, and so forth.
Oh, man. That's messed up.
Terrible. Oh, I would hate that.
Yeah.
Keep going.
I don't know.
Even if you know that that's going to happen, it could still be pretty disturbing.
So much of our brain and the way that we observe and interact with the world is through our senses. And if your senses are lying to you, what is real?
Yeah. Well, unlike many of my patients, people who experience these hallucinations usually realize that they're hallucinating. And they're called Lilliputian hallucinations. So this is named after the 6-inch high people from the classic book Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift, which is written in the 18th century, I believe. Mm-hmm. So Lilliputian hallucinations have been reported in combination with a number of underlying factors, including intoxication or alcohol withdrawal, sleep disturbances and delirium, schizophrenia, progressive blindness. So as the vision's going, for some people, these hallucinations start to appear. Also a variety of neurological problems like stroke, brain tumor, as well as infectious sources like neurosyphilis, malaria, and tuberculosis. It's a very wide range of causes. Yeah. The phenomenon has not really been studied all that much, and there's no consensus on exactly how this is happening in the brain. However, there's been some recent research that has offered some intriguing clues.
Do tell.
There is a popular edible mushroom found in China and the Philippines that, when eaten undercooked or raw, causes Lilliputian hallucinations.
Ooh.
Repeatedly and reliably?
Repeatedly and reliably. Just no other kind of hallucination.
Fascinating.
Just Lilliputian hallucinations.
What does that tell us about our brains?
Well, right?
That is... it's so interesting.
Wild.
The mushroom is, the scientific name is Lanmawa asiatica, which is a bolete mushroom from Yunnan province in southwestern China. Okay. It's from the same family of mushrooms that produces some other well-known edibles like the porcini mushroom, as well as some non-edible mushrooms. And in Chinese, it's called jian shu qing, and its flesh also turns blue on exposure to air.
Wild.
Yeah. It's been sold as a prized edible mushroom in Yunnan for at least decades, if not longer. But it was only described by science in 2015. Uh-huh. Yeah. And it is a wild-growing mushroom that has a symbiotic relationship with pine trees, so you can't cultivate it commercially.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So this doctoral student from the University of Utah named Colin Domnauer is focusing on this mushroom for his dissertation after first hearing about it just in passing in an elective undergraduate mycology class that he was taking. And this changed the course of his academic career. He had originally, I think, been planning to go into astronomy or something. But
wildly different.
Yes.
Little
so
change.
Colin decided to research about this and make it the focus of his PhD. And he started out by traveling to Yunnan to talk with people who forage, sell, serve, and consume the mushroom, which makes sense because they're the ones who know about it. Mm-hmm. So he found that the hallucinogenic effects were quite well known, and the people discussed them matter-of-factly. People eat the mushroom because it's highly prized for its taste, It's got a very umami flavor, apparently. They don't seek out the hallucinogenic effects, but they know that there's the risk of it happening, especially if the mushrooms are undercooked. But they eat them anyway because they like them. Interestingly, symptoms are delayed. They come usually 12 to 24 hours after eating the mushroom, which is very different than the hallucinogenic effects of like psilocybin magic mushrooms, which are faster.
Yeah, that's weird.
Also, unlike psilocybin mushrooms, they have not become the focus of any religious rituals or people seeking out a trip, at least yet.
That is fascinating that they figured out that it was that mushroom that caused.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah,
because
with
it's
such
like
a delay.
I don't know what I ate yesterday. Like, that's really fascinating.
While he was doing his research, Colin also heard reports of a similar mushroom with similar effects in the northern Philippines. So he did wind up also traveling there and found through genetic testing that it was exact same mushroom that was growing in these two different locations, although it had a different appearance in the two locations. So he didn't know at first.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. Similar reports of bolete mushrooms causing hallucinations of little people were actually reported from Papua New Guinea as early as the 1930s. But the scientists who were trying to study this in the 1960s were not able to isolate the specific mushroom or identify any psychoactive compounds from candidate mushrooms. And also the just bizarreness of these reports made it seem kind of unbelievable almost. So
yeah. Kind of sometimes it's frowned upon to like study something that might be like a little too out there.
Yeah, totally.
Well, also like
you're wasting your time
early
if nothing pans out.
1900s and such, there was a big craze when it for fairies and fairy culture, and not like and the little peoples that were around, I guess.
So we don't actually know for sure if this exact same species of mushroom grows in Papua New Guinea, although it's possible.
That was my thought.
Or perhaps another species that has the same unknown hallucinogenic compound. So Colin has published a paper with his results of a whole genome sequencing that he did for the bolete, and they did not find any genes related to any known hallucinogen. Nor did the chemical analysis that they did show any known hallucinogens. So we are dealing with something totally new here.
I mean, that's not too surprising, because if it was a known hallucinogen, we would know about this being a common thing that happens with other things. But yeah.
You would hope, but
really
that's
cool.
They've also been doing...
When you wonder if something...
Oh, sorry.
Well, you wonder if things like this are in other places around the world, just because I feel like little people are often associated with mushrooms and stuff too in a number of cultures.
They absolutely are, especially in like Ireland. Yeah.
So they've been doing experiments in mice where they give the mice extracts of different chemicals they've isolated from the mushroom to see if there are any behavior changes that they can observe versus a control. They
sit down and start having tea with someone. Now, I would want to know, and this is the thing, I don't know how we would ever figure this out. If the mice see little people, are they little in relation to the size of the mouse, or do they see big giant people?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do they
or do they see little mice?
Littler mice?
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh, that's what I want to know.
We'll never know,
and
unfortunately.
We'll probably never know. So frustrating.
So they do have some candidate compounds that are causing some kind of activity in the mice, but of course there's no guarantee that this is the same compound that's causing the hallucinations in humans. And they're not testing this stuff in humans yet, at least. So yeah, it's just so fascinating because there must be some like kind of specific pathway or brain region that this hallucinogen is targeting, but we don't know what it is.
And that it has the same effect on everyone is what blows my mind, because you hear stories about like people taking hallucinogens and seeing all kinds of things, but it's not the same
And these are very reality-grounded hallucinations, except for the little people.
Yeah. I think that's why I said before, what is going on in the brain that makes it be like, you know what? Little people. Everyone's going to see little people.
And the thing is, like, we don't know for sure, but it's probably the same thing that's happening with all these other different disease states or toxins that can cause this that we talked about at the beginning of the episode, from alcohol withdrawal to malaria. With the studies of, not with the mushroom, but with other Lilliputian hallucinations, they've done some MRI studies, and some of them have shown that the visual cortex is involved, which is, a region of the brain.
That makes sense.
But then other studies have shown involvement from other brain regions, so we really don't know what's going on.
Cool. I mean, it's a mystery. I love mysteries. So cool.
Wild.
All right. So my sources this week were a paper by Jan Dirk Blom called Leroy's Elusive Little People, a Systematic View on Lilliputian Hallucinations. Very helpful. From Neuroscience and Biobehavioral Reviews from 2021. And then a Live Science interview with Colin Domnall, the PhD student, about his research. And also a little background information from Wikipedia.
Awesome.
Very cool.
And I believe that, you're welcome. I think that takes us to the end of our show.
It does.
Correct. I think next week's show, we're all going to be on hallucinogens for the show.
I'm going to say no.
So tune in.
I'm good.
That'd be a strange show.
It would be a trip.
Strange by nature, indeed.
Oh, man. Wild. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to today's show. Be sure to subscribe. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and we love sharing this strange world with all our listeners. If you would be so kind as to leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you get your podcasts, that would be great. It lets other lovers of the strange discover the show. You can reach us by searching for Strange by Nature Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky. You can send us an email as well. Our address is contact@strangebynaturepodcast.com. If you want more information about the show, you can check out our website, strangebynaturepodcast.com, and you can support the show and get ad-free episodes at patreon.com/strangebynature. Until next week, get outside, stay curious, and embrace the strange.